The first thing Lieutenant Marcus Hale noticed about the gas was the color. It wasn't the dull gray smog he expected from a battlefield, nor the deep rust red of Martian dust storms. No, this was a luminous green haze that clung to armor joints and curled lazily around boots, like neon fog straight out of a bad 80s music video. If you squinted, you half expected it to start pulsing to a synthesizer beat. The second thing he noticed was that the aliens were dropping like flies. Big, armored flies. They hit the ground, writhing, their helmets fogging up with their own breath, claws scraping desperately at the seals of their suits as the toxins seeped through. Their comms screamed with panicked chatter, orders dissolving into coughing fits. The Zarathi fleet had unleashed their proudest chemical weapon, one that killed in under a minute, dissolved lungs into soup, and left a planet uninhabitable for centuries. They called it the cleansing. Hale called it, well, Tuesday. Lieutenant, Sergeant Velasquez's voice crackled in his earpiece, calm as ever. Orders are to hold position. Don't die. Preferably in that order. Copy that, Hale said, tugging his helmet free and letting it drop with a hollow thunk against the deck. The cool, glowing mist hit his face like minty air freshener from hell. He inhaled deeply, theatrically, then let out a satisfied sigh. Ah. You know what this tastes like, Sarge? Velasquez raised one brow behind his visor. Enlighten me. Pickles. Expired ones. The kind your grandma swears are still fine if you scrape off the fuzzy bits. Over the comms, half the squad snorted. The other half gasped in disbelief. The Zarathi commander, safe aboard his flagship, watched the human feed with widening mandibles. Impossible, he hissed, mandibles clicking in disbelief. The atmosphere will dissolve their organs. It is mathematically inevitable. On cue, Hale took another long drag of the neon vapor and exhaled like a satisfied smoker on shore leave. Ah, smooth. He even mimed a cough for dramatic effect. Velasquez, I think I just found my new favorite brand. Panic spread faster among the Zarathi than the toxin itself. Soldiers began stumbling backward, unsure if their sensors were malfunctioning. Were the humans immune? Or worse, did they thrive on it? You see that? Whispered Private Kim. They're actually scared of us. They should be, Velasquez muttered. And we haven't even told them the punchline yet. Hale grinned. He knew the script. Humanity always played it the same way. Humor first, then horror. The gas had been designed after centuries of experimentation by the Zarathi chemlords, tailored to exploit the fragility of oxygen-based biology. It corroded protein bonds, shredded alveoli, left victims drowning in their own fluids. Entire species had fallen to it. In the galactic concord, it was whispered about with reverence and fear. Humans, however, were not briefed about this reputation. Instead, when Earth's first encounter with it came during the siege of Clython Ridge, a Marine named Jackson sneezed, rubbed his nose, and said it reminded him of jalapeno fumes. Galactic historians still debated whether it was bravery or sheer ignorance that allowed humans to wade into the mist with their helmets off. But after that day, gas mask became less of a military necessity and more of a fashion accessory. On the Zarathi bridge, Admiral K.R.R. Tatch slammed his claws against the hollow display. Retreat is not an option. They are but mammals. Weak, fleshy, waterlogged. His words faltered as another squad of humans on the feed removed their helmets, laughing, some even blowing smoke rings with the vapor. Sir, his aide whispered, voice trembling, they are consuming it. K.R.R. Tatch froze. Consuming the cleansing? Why yes, Admiral. As if it were nourishment. On the ground, Hale wiped a smear of condensation from his lip. Little tangy, not bad. You know, this would go great with tequila. He winked at the nearest Zarathi trooper, who was backing away in absolute horror. Care for a round? The trooper dropped his rifle and bolted. At first, the galaxy thought it was a bluff. Surely no species could withstand the cleansing. Surely humanity had engineered countermeasures, hidden nanotech, or shield fields. But no, human biology, forged in the toxic soup of Earth's primordial ages, armed with an immune system best described as paranoid with a grudge, simply shrugged at the weapon that had unmade empires. And humans, being humans, leaned hard into the theater of it. They held drinking contests in the mist. They filmed commercials, try new Zerothi breath, now with 30% more lung melt. They sold novelty oxygen cans labeled toxic air, 100% authentic war fog. It wasn't just survival, it was mockery. The Zerothi couldn't comprehend it. To unleash your deadliest weapon, only to see the enemy laugh, was not just a defeat. It was humiliation carved into the annals of history. But Hale and Velasquez knew the truth. The trick wasn't that humans enjoyed the gas. It was that they understood fear. Show the galaxy that humanity could feast on death itself, and enemies would wither before the first shot was fired. Think they've had enough? Kim asked, as Zerothi ranks broke into full retreat. Hale shrugged. Give em a little more. He cupped his hands, inhaled deeply, and shouted into the fog, "Thanks for the free air conditioning, bugs." The Zerothi fleet began pulling out of orbit within the hour. The Concorde's diplomatic chambers were chaos the next day. Representatives of dozens of species argued, shouted, whispered frantically. Words like impossible and unnatural flew across the hall. Hollow feeds of helmetless humans striding through clouds of green poison played on repeat, each time more disturbing than the last. The Zalthi ambassador finally broke. What are you people? Ambassador Reyes of Earth smiled politely, adjusting his tie. Oh, us? Just a simple species. We like long walks, strong coffee, and occasionally surviving apocalypse-grade chemical warfare. This is not reasonable, hissed the ambassador. You should not exist. Reyes leaned forward, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Neither should most of our cooking, yet here we are. Ever had a Carolina Reaper? Makes that gas taste like candy. The chamber erupted again. Whispers spread. Armies that had once considered humanity a nuisance began reconsidering their strategies. The Veil Tor scrapped their bioweapon division. The Kroggy quietly cancelled a campaign. The Zerothi themselves quarantined entire sectors, unwilling to risk another humiliation. Hale, for his part, spent the aftermath writing a field guide titled 50 Shades of Poison, a culinary tour. It sold shockingly well. But beneath the humor, beneath the bravado, there was a colder truth. Humanity hadn't stumbled into this by accident. Their biologists, their tacticians, had known exactly what they were doing when they stepped barefaced into that green fog. It was bait. The Zerothi believed they had discovered Earth's Achilles heel, oxygen-based biology vulnerable to chemical assault. So Earth gave them a chance to strike. They let the Zerothi deploy their deadliest weapon, let them broadcast it across the stars, and then turned it into a punchline. Because nothing breaks an empire faster than the realization that its ultimate weapon is a joke. Months later, Hale sat in a quiet bar on Luna, swirling a glass of whiskey. Velasquez slid into the seat across from him. Heard the Zerothi just abandoned another sector. Word is they're pulling their fleets back to their homeworld. Hale smirked. Scared of the big bad humans? Scared of themselves, Velasquez corrected. Their empire was built on fear. You took that away. Not just me. Hale raised his glass. All of us. Every idiot who laughed in the fog. Velasquez clinked his glass. 2 idiots. They drank. In the darkness of the galaxy, fleets shifted, alliances faltered, and wars crumbled. Species that had once sneered at the upstart humans now eyed them with a mix of dread and awe. Because if a species could breathe death and laugh, what else were they capable of? And deep within the vaults of Earth Command, plans were drawn. Plans that had always been there, waiting. Because this wasn't about a single victory, or even a war. It was about the trap. The one humanity had set the moment they stepped into the galactic stage, smiling politely, shaking hands, sipping tea, and quietly ensuring that when the time came, no empire would ever dare raise a hand against them again. After all, in a galaxy where fear was currency, humanity had just proven they were the bank. And business was booming.